Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, a real estate investment program. Listen and learn how to use real estate to build wealth and passive income streams for you and your family. We bring you experts every day to discuss and answer your questions on everything from single-family homes all the way up to 600-plus unit apartment complexes. And now, the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited. And as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Hey, it's Father's Day today, so to all the dads out there, I hope you're having a great day with your family. I wish you a happy Father's Day. Listen, I'm a dad too, and right now we're dealing with the terrible twos and potty training at the same time. It is rough. And I'll tell you what, I'm in my mid-40s now with a 2.5-year-old boy, my only child, so I'm a little late to the game, and it has been a bit of an adjustment, let me tell you. Now, don't take that to mean that the little guy was a surprise. Not at all. I get that question a lot, actually. In fact, we tried for quite some time to have a kid, but it just wasn't working out. Then we had a major life change, and I'll tell you that change relates to real estate. It absolutely does, and it relates to building enough passive income for my wife to quit her awful, toxic job. And then, well, I'll tell you the rest just a little later in the show. It's actually a pretty important message for anybody out there that is working a high-stress job or working in a toxic environment. And I don't mean hazardous chemicals toxic. I mean hazardous coworkers. Don't underestimate the ways that stress can manifest itself physically. We've seen that here firsthand in our family. But I'll come back to that. Now, if you're listening to the program right now, then I'm sure you're either interested in real estate investing or building passive income or both. They do sort of go hand in hand. Now, have you ever thought about all the ways that real estate investing and your family can go hand in hand? Listen, as dads and husbands, and of course this goes for the moms out there and wives as well, we want to provide for our families. We want to be there for our families and spend time with them. We want to raise responsible, self-sufficient, independent, and successful children, and we want to create wealth and pass that on to the next generation. As real estate investors, we can do all of that and more. And on today's show, I want to talk through 10 topics that relate to family, building passive income, and real estate investing. I want to show you 10 ways that you can use real estate to enrich your family. And I don't just mean financially. Remember our slogan that we say here, it's not about the money, it's about the lifestyle. So we're going to hit a number of topics that include estate planning, college planning, legacy building, volunteering, and more. So let's start with the end of life. Let's start with the end in mind, right? And dive in with number one, estate planning, wills. Look, if you're a real estate investor and you have a family and you own any income property at all, get a will. Even if you don't have rental property yet, if you have any kids, get a will. If you have a spouse, get a will. Look, if you do any kind of Google search on how many U.S. adults have a will or don't have one, you'll quickly learn that only 4 out of 10 adults in the U.S. have one. Only 4 out of 10 have a will. Roughly 60% of U.S. adults don't have one in place. The rest are just, they're just sticking their heads in the sand. And if you drill down into the numbers, you'll see that as we age, we do tend to get those in place. Or maybe we're just dying off and that's skewing the numbers. I don't know. But in any case, 81% of people aged 72 or older do have wills. Great. Folks 53 to 71, 58% of them have wills. But if you go down the line, only, 78% of millennials do not have one. And 64% of Gen Xers, that's my generation, don't have one in place. Who has the young kids? It's going to be the Gen Xers. It's going to be the millennials. We're the ones that have those kids. So come on, guys, you got to get your head out of the sand. Look, if you have any family at all and you die, you don't want them to have to deal with figuring out your estate on top of dealing with your death. And you don't want the fate of your children left up to the court. Just don't do it. Get a darn will. And if you have any rental property at all, your situation becomes a little more complicated. So please don't go the DIY route. Don't go online to LegalZoom or whatever it is and download a will and fill it out yourself. You really need to consult an attorney. Look, I get it. It's a depressing topic. You're facing your own mortality. But it's a step you got to take. You got to take care of your family. Neither my wife nor I had done this ourselves. So I can tell you this, I confess this. And we finally drug our feet to an attorney about a year after our son was born, but we finally got it done. It did cost us a little money, but look, we can sleep better at night knowing that our little guy is taken care of. So if you're not sure whom to consult and you are a member of Lifestyles Unlimited, remember that we've got our vendor hub out there. It's available to you. So go out and check it out, see what attorneys are in your area, and get a will. Okay, let's look at number 2, and this relates to estate planning as well. Let's talk about the tax benefits of real estate when your properties transfer to your heirs. Look, as you buy and hold income properties, you're going to gain equity. And at some point, let's say you sell those properties. You're still alive, you sell them, you're going to have capital gains taxes to pay. You could do a 1031, but let's keep those capital gains taxes in mind. Now, what happens if you're holding those properties when you pass away? Is there a capital gains tax when your heirs inherit those? No, there isn't. Is there an inheritance tax? No, there isn't. Those properties will transfer to your heirs in what is called a stepped-up basis. That's what the IRS calls it. What this means is that the IRS views the situation as though your heirs had purchased those properties at the market value of the day on the day that they inherited those from you. And essentially, this resets the starting point at which the IRS measures the value for the purpose of calculating those capital gains when your heirs sell those properties. Let me give you an example. Let's say you bought a single-family rental in 2008 when the market was down, and you paid just $50K for that house. Well, now we're in 2019, and that house has appreciated massively. It's worth $250K. I saw a house down the road here from me, did just that. So we're going to ignore things like depreciation, recapture, other costs that you may have paid to acquire, dispose of, or rehab the property. We're going to keep our analysis simple. So if you were to sell that property today for $250,000, you paid $50, well, then your capital gains are $200K. That's what you pay taxes on. The difference between sales price today and the price you paid. Now, what happens if you die and pass that house on to your kids? Well, the IRS resets the value when they measure any future capital gains if your kids happen to sell the property. It's like your kids bought the house for $250,000. If they turn around in a year and sell it, let's say, for $275,000, well, the only thing they have to worry about is $25,000 in capital gains. That's great. That's great stuff for estate planning. Now, please be sure to talk to your CPA or your tax professional about any sort of tax planning. Now, let's move on to number 3, talking about planning. Let's talk about college planning. Nowadays, the common path that parents in the U.S. follow is to open a college savings account, something like a 529 plan, when the kids are young. And then the parents, what do? They start sacrificing their own retirement to prepare their kids for college, to get that money together to send their kids to college. And those parents steadily park their funds in that 529 account. Of course, when the kid is 2.5 like mine, we have no idea if the kid's even going to want to go to college when he's 18 or be able to, right? And I'll tell you, with the way that college tuition is skyrocketing, it may not even make sense in 18 years. The return on that college tuition may just not be there. And I'm not going to beat the idea of college into my kid's head either. Look, I appreciate the intentions here, but here's what parents are doing. We're basically committing that kid to the wrong roadmap from the get-go. Hey, son, look, I set all this money aside for you to go to college. I sure wish you'd go to college. And off they go down the wrong path. Go to college, get a job, start to save for your own retirement, start your own 529 plan, and so the process repeats. Look, I've got a better idea. Don't put your money into a 529 plan. Buy a rental house on behalf of your child and buy it now while they're young. Get a really good cash flowing house and set that cash flow aside every month into an account for your kid. Let that cash build up and let the equity in the property build up as well. Look, when they finish high school, if college is the route he or she wants to take, well, you've got some options. First of all, you've got some cash set aside from that monthly cash flow. And you've got some equity in the house that you can leverage. And you can do a couple of things. You can either refinance and pull some cash out, or you can just sell the house. So let's look at some quick numbers. Let's say I start when my kid is 3, like mine's about to be, and I pick up a house here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that cash flows $400 a month. That's about average for our area right now. You can play with the numbers depending on where you are. And we're going to hold this house till the kid is 18, so that's 15 years. That's $4,800 per year just in cash flow that I'm going to set aside over 15 years. That's $72,000. Now, of course, if you're holding for that long, you're right. You're going to have some maintenance and CapEx. So let's cut that number down a bit for argument's sake and say we have $60,000 in cash waiting for our kid. By the way, if you've got $60K in cash, you might buy another couple houses along the way as well. Now, let's say this house is valued at $150,000 when we're done fixing it up at acquisition. And we refi into a 30-year Fannie Mae loan at 75% loan to value. Rates right now are at about 4.5%. Our loan balance is going to be $112,000 when we start out. Here's the cool thing. We've got two things happening for us over time. Number one, the tenant is paying down the mortgage. And number two, there will be some ups and downs, but we will see some value appreciation. Here in Texas, that rate over time has been about 3% or so. So I'm going to run with that number. So 15 years later, when that kid is ready to go to college, that mortgage balance has been amortized, paid down by our tenant. It's now just $75,000. Moving in the other direction, the house has appreciated to $230K, 3% per year. We now have $155K in equity to work with. So you can do two things. You can refinance, working with that 75% LT loan to value. You'll pull out about $100K, add that to the cash pot. You got $160K to work with, or you can sell. You'll pull out even more, and you'll have about $200K in cash between your sale and cash on hand to work with. That's not too bad. Now, I don't know what college tuition will look like in 15 years, but that sure seems like a good start. And guess what? If little Johnny doesn't want to go to college, well, you're not stuck in some 529 plan. Even better, you've got some monopoly money now to go out and pick up some more real estate. So do you have questions for me? You can email me at askandy@luinc.com. That's askandy@luinc.com. Or give me a call at 877-711-5211. That's 877-711-5211. And we're talking about 10 ways that you can really tie real estate to your family and grow your wealth, improve your family's position, spend more time with your family, of course, which on Father's Day is essentially important to us. You're listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb, and we'll continue on our list of 10 items when we come back. Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb, and today we're talking about your financial freedom and ways that you can bundle your real estate investing and your family to build wealth, plan your estate, plan for college, do all kinds of things. And ahead of the break, we talked specifically about estate planning, and I stressed, and I'll stress it again, if you don't have one, you need to get a will. Go talk to an attorney and get a will. We talked a little bit about the tax benefits when you transfer your estate, at least your properties, to your heirs. And we talked a little bit about college planning, and instead of putting your money into that 529 plan for your kids, buy a couple of rental properties and build up that equity so that when they're ready, you can sell and you've got the cash on hand. Now I want to talk about number 4. I want to talk about roadmaps. I mentioned that when we talked about college. Look, you've got to set your kids up for success by making sure you teach them to follow the right roadmap from the outset. Look, just teach your kids. This is one of your many jobs as a parent. Work with them over time. Make sure they see what you're doing in real estate. Make sure they understand why. Make sure they see what your peers are doing, your fellow investors, and the success that you and your friends are having. Make sure they see what the rest of the nation is doing and that they understand how that, what I'll call standard roadmap is working out for the rest of the crowd. Just open their eyes to the fact that there is an alternative. Look, maybe your little guy wants to become a doctor. He's got some passion for helping people out in that way. And that's great. We need doctors, of course. So college is in his future. It has to be. But we can at least show them that there are alternatives. Heck, bring them to Lifestyles. Get out on a single family or a multi-family road trip with them. This will help them to see the bigger picture. I actually was at the Lifestyles office here in Dallas this past week, and there was a multi-family road trip gearing up. It was full of investors. I believe they were listening to a vendor presentation at the time, and I noticed in the corner a wealth of little kids just standing there, hanging out. School's out for the summer. And they were there with their parents, and I think that's great. Now let's jump to number 5, building a legacy and operating like a family office. Now I first heard this concept of a family office from a guy named Curtis Haynes. And Curtis, he's one of the multifamily mentors down in the Houston office. And this guy, wow, he is a super successful billionaire apartment investor. I don't want to misquote the number, But I was down there at the Lifestyles Unlimited Wealth and Passive Income Expo this past April, and he was one of the guys up on stage presenting his like a case study of sorts. And I want to say he said he was up to something like 16,000 doors. That is just phenomenal. 16,000 apartment doors. Look, clearly this is a guy that knows what he's doing and is somebody that we should all be listening to. And he's a mentor at Lifestyles. That's some good stuff. And he relates a story, and you can find this on one of the podcasts at our website, lifestylesunlimited.com. Just go to the radio tab. But he relates a story about being in some sort of a session or conference with a number of high net worth individuals and hearing the concept of the family office. Basically, these guys with this super high net worth have an office with employees that are dedicated solely to managing the family's wealth. This team keeps that cash deployed, and when money comes in from one investment, they make sure it goes back out the door, as quickly as possible. Their sole job is to redeploy that cash in a timely manner back into an investment that's going to get that money making money again, right? The whole idea is to optimize the returns on our money to make sure our money is working for us in the most efficient way. So I'm not going to have some team of employees doing this for me, but I can certainly apply the concept. I can start to think like that team, and so can you. We can focus on getting the most optimal return possible, and there are a couple of metrics that we can use to do this. Look, the first one is return on net worth, and I first heard this concept from Curtis. Look, if you don't know what your net worth is, you can figure that out. You need to go through and calculate all of your assets, add those up on one side of the equation, then go down, look at all your liabilities, all your debts, add those together, subtract those debts from your assets. That's your net worth. Now look at any passive income that you've got coming in the door each month, add that up, annualize it, and divide that by your net worth. That is your return on net worth, and it's probably pretty low. You don't have enough passive income, but now you know your starting point, and you have something to measure yourself on each month, each quarter, each year. You can set goals around that and work to increase that number on your family's behalf. The other metric that you can look at, if you've been investing for some time like we have, is return on equity. If you've got any rental properties, take your annual cash flow and divide by the equity that you have in that property today. You may be surprised to see that number has gotten very low over time. That just tells you that you have too much cash tied up in that house now, and it may be a good time to either refinance and pull some cash out to reinvest, or sell the property and do a 1031 exchange into another rental. You've got to keep your money working optimally to build wealth for your family. Hey, you're listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb, and today we're talking about ways to tie our family together with our real estate investing, build our wealth, plan our estate, plan for college, and so on. And when we return, I'm going to tell you about some really cool stuff some investors I met are doing in San Antonio and other parts of the country to educate their kids on investing.
Get total freedom in your life, safely and quickly. Build wealth and passive income so you never worry about working until you drop, losing your job, or retiring in poverty. 29 years ago, Del Walmsley founded Lifestyles Unlimited. Del has taught over 100,000 people, just like me and you, the principles of financial freedom through his national radio shows and personal one-on-one mentoring at Lifestyles Unlimited. I'm excited to tell you about the real estate workshop that has changed so many lives. This workshop takes you inside what we do and what we believe. We'll share with you the 5 ways we make money in real estate and much more. Just like your personal trainer, the Lifestyles Unlimited team will motivate, encourage, and teach you so you can get in the best financial shape of your life. Call 866-971-8970 or go to lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com. That's lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com to register for the workshop that will change your life. That's lifestylesunlimitedpodcast.com.
You're listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb, and I am happy to be with you today on Father's Day. And to all the dads out there, I wish you a great day with your families. And today, we're taking the opportunity, since it is Father's Day, to talk about families and real estate and how we can kind of bundle the two together. And we've looked at a number of things as real estate investors that we can think about as it regards our families. We talked about estate planning, we talked about college planning, and most recently, we talked about legacy. And and the concept of a family office as presented by Curtis Haynes, one of our mentors down in Houston. Now I want to move on to number 6, and this one really gets me excited. I mentioned I have a 2.5-year-old, so he's got 3 tool sets already. One from us, one from a good friend of ours, and one from one of our relatives. And boy, he just loves banging around on that hammer. He's a little out of control sometimes, but this one, number 6, relates to legacy in a sense as well. Involve your kids in the business. Look, teach them how to run a business. Teach them a work ethic. Teach them about real estate investing and investing in general. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier the Lifestyles Unlimited Wealth and Passive Income Expo. This was just a few months ago down in Houston. Look, this is an awesome event, first of all. It's the largest in-person gathering of successful real estate investors in the nation, and it is a great place to be. It's very inspirational. There's tons of networking going on, of course, lots of education as well, breakout sessions and whatnot. And whether you're an investor now or just thinking about it, and whether you're a Lifestyles member or not, you can go. And it's really something that you should plan on checking out next year. So this past expo had a great breakout session on this very topic of legacy. And that's where I heard Curtis talk about the family office. That was the first half of the session. The second half, there were 4 other investors in the room that got up and talked about how they are bringing their kids into the business. And I want to tell you a little bit about what they're doing, because I think it's some really great stuff. Now, Tricia was the first one that spoke, and she's got, her story alone is worth hearing. She was a stay-at-home mom in San Antonio and wound up going out, joining Lifestyles, and picked up 4 or 5, I forget exactly how many, 4 or 5 single-family rentals in San Antonio. Well, all of a sudden, they had to move to Georgia with her husband's job, but she kept those houses in place and kept managing them from afar because it's that easy. But eventually she said, you know what, I'm going to sell these things. And she rolled them into a 24-unit multifamily there in Georgia near where they're at. So she's now an IRO, that's an independent rental owner. Well, she's got a number of kids, and she's got an older daughter that's, I want to say, 17, 18, 19, something like that. And look, her daughter had an option, go to college or join the family business. And her daughter said, you know what, I'm going to skip the college for now. I want to join you, Mom, in the business. So her daughter started as an intern. And she learned the business, and now she is the paid property manager. That's her job. She's running the show. Her mom doesn't have to do anything. So this girl, she's independent. She's responsible. She's learned to run a business at 18 or 19 years old. That's phenomenal. And there were a couple other women there in the room that spoke that had single family rentals in San Antonio. And it's really cool. They take their kids with them to walk houses. Their kids now know how to identify things like foundation problems or a bad roof that most adults would miss. They've seen their parents work with contractors, negotiate with contractors, work with other people in general, right? Like tenants or other investors, see how their parents run a business. And the last part I love, one of the moms is having her kids invest with her on deals. Her kids have a little bit of savings, and they can choose whether or not they invest, and they can choose how much. And I think one of them invested $500 or $1,000 in the latest house, and well, she's getting monthly returns now. So she's seeing how this investing thing really plays out. That is awesome. And the last guy that spoke, he's a multifamily investor and a math teacher, and he's doing the same thing. He's given his kids the option to invest with him, to put in a percentage. He goes into a multifamily deal. He's the investor, of course, but he takes a little bit of their money with him. And then he walks through the numbers with them. Now, he doesn't sit them down and have them read the full PPM, the private placement memorandum. If you've seen one of those, they are meaty and nothing I want to subject my kids to. They're going to fall asleep. But he walks through the numbers, and it's a great opportunity to teach kids about investing. And as a math teacher, it's a great way to talk about math, simple and even more complicated math, like, calculating returns and that sort of thing. Look, I love this stuff. Right now, my little guy, like I said, he's just 2.5 years old, so he's not quite there. He's out in the living room banging on a plastic hammer, probably putting a hole in the wall. I don't know, but I'll definitely be bringing him on board. We're setting aside funds right now. When he's old enough, when he can understand, we'll encourage him to invest with us just like those other mothers were doing down in San Antonio, and we'll take it from there. And, I look forward to showing him the business, showing him from the investment side, as well as, learning how to rehab a house. I've actually got a buddy down the road, Dan, and his wife, Kathy. They're Lifestyles members, and he's a little bit more involved with his properties. He enjoys doing the work. Nothing wrong with that. But I love that he brings his grandson with him to the properties with him. His grandson helps him out. And I think the last going rate he was paying his grandson is $1 per cabinet to paint the inside of the cabinet. So talk about building a work ethic there. Hey, you're listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, and when we come back, we're going to talk about volunteering, and I want to tell you how kids can close deals for you. This is pretty awesome. When we return, this is Andy Webb. We are back with the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb, and today we've been talking about fathers and mothers and family in general, and the way that we can really bundle that together with real estate to grow our wealth, and sort of estate planning we might need to do. I told you better get a will. If you don't have one, get a will. It's very important to me. And what I want to talk to you now about is my little guy. He's 2.5. And let me tell you something. This is number 7 on our list. Kids close deals. Listen to me. Kids close deals. What am I talking about? Look, we source our house purchases, our deals from multiple places. You know, we've bought most of our properties through the Lifestyles Network over the years, through the agents there, but we'll pick up a deal here and there, you know, just through people we know. You know, once people know that you're investing, they send you stuff, you know, and sometimes it's just being out and about and talking to people. And, you know, in this case, when that happens, we're buying directly from the seller. And hey, let me tell you, if you are looking to get started, let as many people know as you can what you're up to, what your plans are. You'll be surprised where those leads come from. I mentioned my buddy Dan a second ago with the grandson that he pays to paint cabinets. Well, he picked up a house from his dentist. Dentist had another patient, I guess, that was in distress, and not just from the dentist, of course, but Dan picked up a house that way. So let people know. You know, we bought one a few years ago from a former tenant, so you'd be surprised. But what I've noticed is that anytime our little guy is with us, when we go to walk a property and negotiate a deal, we get the deal. And here's what I think is happening. A lot of folks that we're working with are in distress, emotionally, financially, whatever the case may be. And they don't see just me pull up, long-haired, tall guy. They see me, and they see my wife, and they see my little guy all show up as a family. They see that this is a family business. They see this cute little kid, and he's cute, and it disarms them, and it helps us build rapport. And that's the rapport you need to get the deal you want. And I'll tell you, those kids are cute, and they can work some magic just by doing what they do. Now, I will say this. Please use some common sense. Don't put them in harm's way. Don't go into an overly dilapidated house, a 2-story house with half the floor missing upstairs in a sketchy part of town at night. Use some common sense. But I think in many cases, that little guy may just win the day for you. Okay, on to number 8. As a real estate investor, you've seen some success. I want you to be sure to give back. Give back to your community. And teach your kids to volunteer and donate both their time and money. This is a great way to spend some time with your kids, first of all. And it's a great way to teach them. Teach them the abundance mentality. Teach them to be generous and giving. You know, personally, my wife and I are big fans of Habitat for Humanity here in our area. And we also a number of animal shelters. And, you can bet when my little guy is big enough to swing a real hammer, not those plastic ones, or hold a paintbrush reasonably well, I'll get him out there with me on one of those job sites. Talk about teaching a work ethic and talk about learning something about construction. It's all there. And again, it's a great way to teach them while spending time with them. Whether it's volunteering with Habitat for Humanity or working with a homeless shelter in your area or, a local no-kill animal shelter, get out there, volunteer your time. Now let's talk about number 9, your extended family. Here's what you'll find. As you start to invest in real estate, you're going to choose one of 2 paths. You can blaze your own trail. You can reinvent the wheel. And you can go down a lonely path doing this thing all by yourself. Or you can recognize the value of being in a group of like-minded people. Join a group like Lifestyles Unlimited, whatever's in your area, and go down that path together. Follow a successful, proven roadmap. And I'll tell you, when you do that, you'll find that Lifestyles becomes your extended family. If you spend any time at the local events, you're going to come to know a great group of people. It becomes a very active social network. Of course, it's driven fundamentally by real estate and our common goals of building passive income, but you really get to know these people. Both the Lifestyles team, the agents, the mentors, of course, but all of the investor members that you meet along the way as well. I love going to the case studies for this very reason, and the other events, the single-family road trips, the multi-family road trips, and just, running into old friends and hearing what everyone is up to. It's always inspirational. And, I've known many of these people since we joined over 7 years ago. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to see how they've grown and developed. So we've talked about 9 out of 10 things you can do in real estate to bundle that together with your family. And when we come back, I want to talk about a very, very important topic, which is your health. This is number 10. And I referenced this at the start of the show. If you've got any questions for me today, you can send me an email to askandy@luinc.com. That's askandy@luinc.com. And if you want to see what Lifestyle's about, but you're not quite sure, come out to the free workshop. Call us at 866-945-6565. That's 866-945-6565. Or go to lifestylesunlimited.com to register for a free workshop in your area and check it out. Come learn about our extended family.
All right.
We are back with the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. This is Andy Webb, and today we've been talking about ways we can bundle family and real estate together. Think about estate planning, get a will, talked about the tax benefits, talked about college planning. Hey, don't put that money into a 529 plan. Buy a house or two, a rental house or two, and hold on to that for 15 years if you think your kid's going to go to college. And we talked about, be sure to teach your kids the right roadmap from the outset, and looked at a couple of topics around legacy, volunteering, and I told you that my kid helps me close deals, so keep that in mind. But look, I want to get to number 10. I want to talk about your health, because without your health, all of this is meaningless. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. I mentioned this at the start of the show, and this one gets pretty personal for me, but I think it's worth sharing. And I told you that we're a little late to the game with our 2.5-year-old. I'm in my mid-40s now, and we had been trying for quite some time to have a kid, and it just wasn't working out. Well, let me tell you a little bit about my wife. She's a pretty bullheaded, stubborn person, and I love her. And she was working in a job that was paying pretty well, but it was an awful, awful toxic environment. Look, when she started out, the role seemed very promising. This was at a Fortune 100 company, so a big national company. And from what I hear, most of the branches around the nation are just fine. For whatever reason, the one here in town was just poison. But she stuck with it. And it wasn't so bad at first, but she climbed fairly quickly and got into a supervisory role. But the management there is just nuts. And a lot of her immediate supervisors were nuts. No concern for the client, for the customer, no concern for the employee. It was just bottom line numbers sort of stuff, and pushing, and just always pushing, and lots of stress. A lot of stress. And this, it wasn't just my wife. We heard the same thing from friends of ours that we met there, and the turnover was tremendous. And I'll tell you, the friends of ours that got out of that place, they just radiated joy when they finally broke free. But not my wife. She kept dealing with it. And she internalized that stress, and it was toxic. And it manifested itself physically. She didn't sleep well. She came home in tears sometimes. She could have quit her job at any time, but like I said, she's pretty bullheaded. And, we were already members at Lifestyles at the time as this was developing. And, we'd been buying houses for about 3 years. We had 9 rentals in place. And I had told her multiple times, look, it's okay if you need to get out of there. We'd already more than offset her income, but Finally, I got the call from her. She said, I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. Can I quit? Look, she didn't need my permission, of course. And you can guess what I told her. Here's the thing. She had been under stress for so long, such stress that her body was essentially in fight or flight mode constantly. And I told you, we'd been trying to have a kid, and she got pregnant a few times, but miscarried each time. And I'm telling you that the stress there was taking its toll. Now, we didn't connect the dots at the time, but get this. She left that toxic place in early November. I remember it very clearly. And over the next few months, she decompressed. You could see the physical and mental change. She was sleeping again, no more tears, exercising, getting back to health. And in March, just about 5 months later, when all that stress had finally washed away, we found out she was pregnant. And this time, our little guy decided to stick around. So it's Father's Day. It's a very important day to me for this very reason. Sorry about that. Look, this is extremely important. Your health is so important. Your family needs a healthy mom and wife and a healthy dad and husband. If you're in a job now that is, just miserable, where the stress and the toxic environment are just destroying you day by day, you have to get out. If it means changing jobs, then by all means do it. And that's a good first step. But you got to keep your health and you got to keep your sanity. Now, to really get where you want to be, you need to look at building up your passive income, and I'm so thankful that we already had been putting that into place. Look, once you're financially free, you'll have all the time in the world to look after your health. You'll have all the time in the world to get back to the gym and get on that bike and to be there in good health for your family. Look, and this, we've heard the story from Dell as well. He was laid up for some period of time here just recently, 6 months, out on quote-unquote disability, let's call it. Obviously, Dell's a multimillionaire. He doesn't have to worry about disability, but health became for him an extremely important issue as well. So I really want to stress this to you. If you're in a bad position, you need to find a way out. And I want to encourage you to look at passive income, building up that income as a good way to do it. So listen, today is Father's Day, and I wanted to give this show a family focus. We talk about real estate investing as being a team sport, and it is. You got to have a good team around you, but it can also be a family sport as well, something to bring everybody on board with. And we would love it if you would become a part of the extended Lifestyles Unlimited family that I just talked about. It's not hard to do, and it doesn't cost a lot normally, in normal circumstances, but Dell has put together a pretty nice deal out there right now. Go check out the website, buymylifeback.com. That's B-U-Y, buymylifeback.com, and enter the promo code Andy, my name, at the bottom, and you'll get a massive $500 discount off the regular annual family membership. So come join the extended family and see what Lifestyles Unlimited is all about and get to work building your passive income and financial freedom. Hey, this is Andy Webb, and I thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking with you again soon on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.